This is Sister Advocate. This is an official documentation of the harassment from Gregory Ezeagu, who we will refer to in this documentation as Greg, as he is known here in the Republic of Botswana. This is for Greg Ezeagu, also known as Greg in Botswana, a cease and desist notice. This is a public cease and desist declaration. Greg is hereby instructed to stop all forms of contact, harassment, and defamation attempts to Yashar, any repatriates, and any insults towards his non Black clients. This is documented as of June 26, 2025, in the Republic of Botswana. The next portion of this documentation and recording will simply be the reading of statements, complainants, and victim statements. The first statement is a private community advisory for reflection and discernment, reads as follows on the screen. To the trusted community members, stakeholders, and repatriates, from a concerned advocate of justice and unity, subject a quiet word of discernment and safety within our ranks. Dear brothers and sisters, as many of us continue our obedient repatriation within the borders, or a sacred return to the motherland, may we be reminded that not every voice claiming to represent us walks in truth or honor. We must remain vigilant, not fearful, but spiritually and socially awake as the Spirit leads. It has come to our attention through multiple firsthand testimonies that individuals organizing under the appearance of a real estate land opportunity or an African American cooperation have demonstrated a persistent pattern of behaviors that contradict the spirit of Yah's unity and healing we aim to cultivate. These behaviors include public harassment and verbal intimidation attempts of fellow repatriates, use of demeaning, racially inflammatory language in front of local business partners and international clients, an open pattern of humiliation toward Black men doing legitimate business, speaking openly and disparagingly against Black Hebrew communities and beliefs, creating public confusion while privately sowing division and distress. There are video testimonies and documented eyewitness accounts from respected community members who have endured or observed these actions. These records are being handled with spiritual care and accountability, not retaliation. This message is not about gossip. It is about protecting the soil we are planting in. We urge every builder, every spiritual prayer warrior in Yah, and every family and repatriate to do the following. Watch for fruit, not just words. Guard your households and networks with discernment. Keep a prayerful covering over your efforts and your loved ones. Speak with truth when necessary, but move with peace and wisdom. Do not elevate charisma over character. Let no wolf wear the garments of a shepherd among us. Let the Most High Yah continue to expose what is hidden and protect those doing real work with clean hands. Remain wise, remain rooted, remain unshaken. And it signed off when saying, in peace and watchfulness, I'm on a journey as sister and advocate in the spirit of the Most High Yah. Our next documentation is character and community standing of Yashar. The following points and elements are community standing and character of Yashar, the said victim of harassment. He has been doing sustainability and strategy with NGOs since 2016 within the continent. He's been a legal resident of Botswana since 2017. He's assisted with repatriation projects since 2019 and corporate social responsibility recognition by the ministry 2020. Recently, he's been nominated for a local community outreach award in 2024 and also is noted by the local community for assisting with lower income clients for free and affordable tech products and services. Be it known. The following will be the reading of a statement from Yashar, the recipient of the misconduct from 2023 to present day by Greg. The following is Yashar's statement. This is an incident report being filed by Yashar. The subject is called Ongoing Harassment and Public Stalking by Greg, 2023 to present day 2025. Number 1, prior harassment during business meeting 2023 at Nando's Pakalani. In late 2023, I attended a business meeting at Nando's in Acacia Mall, Pakalani, Botswana, with 3 other individuals, Nigel, Scott, and Greg, a resident of Pakalani and a U.S. citizen. The purpose of the meeting was to explore a local business venture. During the meeting, Mr. Asiago became verbally aggressive toward Nigel, accusing him of wanting to enslave him, exploit us financially, and extort funds. He attacked Nigel's character, family, and heritage with verbal abuse, expletives, and racial slurs. Despite Nigel asking for clarification and examples, the exchange escalated and required intervention to prevent a physical altercation. After the incident, Nigel Scott and I made the decision to sever communication with Mr. Asiago. Between January 2024 and May 2025, be it known, Gregory has approached me in public multiple times. In most instances, I ignored or rejected his attempts at interaction. On 2 occasions, I greeted him briefly but remained clear that I did not wish to engage. Despite this, his continued advances have caused me ongoing emotional stress. Number 2, the incident of harassment, stalking, and public intimidation, May 21st, 2025. 2025, Acacia Mall. On the evening of May 21st, 2025, I was speaking with a potential client while shopping at Spar Acacia Mall, Pakalani. During this time, Mr. Asiago approached me and immediately began to verbally harass me, referring to me as a fake preacher and accusing me of flirting with women. He claimed someone told him I blamed him for disrupting a past business deal in 2024. I acknowledged speaking to others about that incident. He then raised his voice in the store, shouting that I was, quote unquote, too old to be telling little boys about that situation, and warned me to, quote, keep his name out of my mouth, end of quote. Feeling threatened by the escalation, I disengaged and left the store. I later sat at the corner couch lounge with acquaintances to decompress. Within 10 minutes, Gregory entered the establishment, targeted me in front of at least 40 patrons, and shouted, see, you're always sitting with white people. I hope you all know this guy is a sellout to his own people. His conduct was racially charged, provocative, and intended to humiliate me in public. I stood from my seat and attempted to de escalate the situation. We eventually moved to the parking area to speak privately. A bystander intervened, attempting to separate. Despite my request, Let me move to the next page here. Despite my request to move away from public view, Mr. Asiago continued to yell and berate me. He made personal attacks about my appearance, my Hebraic faith, finances, and lack of transportation, yelling, "You're wearing those funny clothes," quote. "You're always talking about being a Hebrew," quote. "You don't even sit with your own people," quote. "You're always walking. Nobody knows who you are," quote. I remained calm. Continuing to listen to his harassment, he shouted, quote, "You have a beautiful family and a lot to lose," end of quote. This comment deeply disturbed me and others, and he does not know my wife or children and has never been introduced to them. As I was leaving the area, well dark, I called Nigel to report what happened as I was walking home. During this call, Gregory drove past me, stopped his car, twice asked mockingly if I needed a ride. I declined and he said, "Of course you need a ride. You're broke and always walking." End of quote. He then circled the block twice, turned around, drove past me again, this time yelling, "Tell your wife I said hello." End of quote. The behavior summary and concerns here. Based on the above incidents, I am reporting Mr. Gregory Asiago engaged in the following: repeated verbal harassment and intimidation tactics. Next page. Public humiliation and verbal abuse. Racially charged and inappropriate comments. Following, stalking behavior with malicious intent. Personal threats and references to my family. Ongoing efforts to provoke conflict and exert psychological dominance. Mr. Asiago has demonstrated a consistent pattern of erotic and aggressive behavior. I believe he poses a potential threat to my personal safety and to the others in the community. I respectfully request that this statement be formally documented and that law enforcement advise on the next appropriate step for protection and public safety, submitted and signed by Yashar on the 22nd of May, 2025. That is the end of the statement from the recipient of the actual harassment. We will now move on to eyewitness statements and other complainants. I will first read the witness statement from Nando's. This witness statement was submitted recently, but was written in May of 2025. Statement coming from Mr. Edward J. Scott. It reads as follows. Hello, my name is Edward J. Scott, a resident of Botswana. I'm here on behalf of Yashar to recall to the best of my abilities people and places evolving around an incident which took place last year, 2023, inside the Nando's restaurant in Pakalani, Acacia Mall. I, Yashar, and Nigel, weeks, if not months before this incident, have been working on a collective idea for a lucrative business venture in the local market. We've met a local gentleman, a Derek or Jimmy. If my memory serves me correctly, he was interested in hearing our collective idea for our business idea and was interested in perhaps coming aboard to invest and partner. It was decided by Yashar to extend a courtesy to a gentleman by the name of Greg in a gracious attempt to include his input or expertise, if any, in the structure of the business. During the discussion regarding the business, Greg took it upon himself to belligerently and blatantly hurl unsolicited, personal, bigoted, and very racial insults towards Nigel, insults that included his family as well. Nigel, having had enough of Greg's insults, and asked him to step outside, but instead of complying, Greg took it upon himself to begin a near physical altercation inside Nando's, which included bringing undue and unnecessary attention to our group, disrupting the calm of the other restaurant patrons, even near destruction of restaurant property by violently moving it to approach Nigel during the altercation. It then spilled outside as Greg's insults had turned now towards Yashar, who earlier, while inside, had tried to diffuse the hostilities between Greg and Nigel. Once outside, Greg continued to hurl scandalous, inflammatory, and hurtful insults at both Greg and Yashar, making it a point to do so up close, in person, end quote, in their space, end of quote, within a distance of mere centimeters. Both Yashar and Nigel were pummeled by loud, aggressive slurs, defamatory arguing from Greg, even aggressive, threatening behavior, as if he was attempting to inflict bodily harm on them both. So both of these gentlemen, Yashar and Nigel, walked and drove away from Nando's restaurant. During this time, he managed to return inside of the Nando's restaurant and apologize to both patrons. This is Scott speaking. I apologize to both patrons, management, and staff for our behavior. No police involvement was needed at the time. However, please be aware that since that incident nearly a year ago, Yashar has been approached by Greg several times in a casual social environment, shops, along the street while walking, etc. And each time, Yashar was met with the same belligerent, childlike, and immature behavior from Greg. Yes, even embarrassing, menacing behavior, according to Yashar, that has prompted him to seek refuge and protection away from Greg for Yashar's safety and that of his personal safety too. I do attest to the fact that these occurrences and incidents were recalled to the best of my abilities this 28th day of May 2025. Signed, Edward J. Scott. The next eyewitness statement on this documentation and recording this is a witness statement from Mr. Thomas on the 26th of May 2025, signed in reference to the incidents on May 21st involving Greg's harassment. Relationship to victim is associate, a client of Mr. Yashar. The statement reads as follows from Mr. Thomas. I, Mr. Thomas, hereby provide the following statement concerning events I personally witnessed on the evening of May 21st, 2025 at Corner Couch, Acacia Mall, Bacalane, Botswana. While seated with Mr. Yashar and others, I observed a man, later identified as Gregory Asiago, enter the Corner Couch premises. He moved directly towards our area, stormed around our benches. He began verbally targeting Mr. Yashar, loudly making racially charged remarks such as, "You're always sitting with white people," quote. And "this man is a sellout to his own people," quote. The statements were made in front of a large group of patrons. As an associate of Mr. Yashar, I personally felt the remarks were inappropriate, inflammatory, and intentionally divisive. Mr. Yashar emotionally rose from the table and invited Mr. Yeziago to speak elsewhere to avoid escalating the conflict. Despite this, Mr. Asiago continued to yell and berate him publicly. They both began to argue. A few minutes later, Miss Daniela approached both men and attempted to de escalate the confrontation. Mr. Yashar once again asked Mr. Asiago to move to another area and speak privately, but Mr. Asiago refused and continued his verbal attacks in an increasingly aggressive tone. The situation was tense and clearly uncomfortable for everyone present. I am providing statement voluntarily, affirming that the above events occurred as I witnessed them. Signed, Mr. Thomas, on the 26th of May, 2025. The next witness statement, eyewitness statement, comes from Ms. Daniela Klingenberg. This was submitted on the 27th of May regarding May 21st, 2025 incidents at Corner Couch. Witness statement from Ms. Daniela Klingenberg. Relationship to victim, 6-year associate, client of Mr. Yashar. I, Ms. Daniela Klingenberg, submit this witness statement in regard to a public altercation I observed on the evening of May 21st, 2025 at Corner Couch, Acacia Mall, Pakalani. I was seated at a bench across from Mr. Yashar and a few others when a man, later identified as Gregory Asiago, entered the pub. He walked directly through our seating area and began verbally confronting Yashar with hostility. I found his behavior to be offensive and completely uncalled for. Mr. Yashar stood up, removed his coat, and hurried to Mr. Aziago. Mr. Yashar asked Mr. Aziago several times to step aside to speak elsewhere. After approximately 3 minutes, Mr. Aziago yelling and refusing to de escalate, I approached the two men, two of them, to help calm the situation. Despite efforts, Mr. Asiago continued raising his voice, shouting insults, and refusing to step away from the crowd. Mr. Yashar kept repeating his request to move to a quieter area, but Mr. Asiago persisted to publicly harass him. This behavior was not only inappropriate, but also deeply uncomfortable for those of us nearby. I confirm this statement to be true and to the best of my knowledge, signed Daniela Klingenberg on the 27th of May, 2025. This is the end portion of the recording of the statements submitted, statements documented. We will now have the Yashar speak, and anyone else that is a complainant or victim that would like to share anything that has not been shared, please do so in the brevity and the spirit of Yah as he leads. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, you are available to share anything. If you're available to share, please do so as he leads. Thank you.
Thank you. So I wanted to just give my statement concerning my experiences with Mr. Greg Eziagu and why I feel that he is a threat um, to society in such a way that he causes his conduct is not indicative of someone who is trying to promote unity or peace. At one time, I was developing a relationship with Mr. Eziagu um, concerning an organization that he is spearheading. and we entered into a business meeting, as was described on in the October, in the morning of October of 2023. At that time, he attacked one of the attendants of the meeting and became belligerent in the establishment. And his course of action, in my opinion, was not um, provoked or solicited by any immediate action from any of the participants of that business meeting. And the incident report that was read describing the actions and activities of that meeting that escalated to outside of Nando's in Acacia Mall are accurate. It was a very intense situation. Since then, I have encountered Mr. Eziaku on several occasions, and as was stated before, I have greeted him a couple of times and ignored him a couple of times. Um, every time that I have greeted him was with a very stern reaction. The last time I came in contact with Mr. Eziaku, he attacked me verbally uh, in the Spar grocery store in Acacia Mall. He became very verbally abusive, and we had an exchange concerning um, some interaction he had with another individual concerning me um, speaking about the incident that happened in Nando's about a year and a half ago. Um, we had a heated exchange, and then I decided to leave the exchange and continue on because I could no longer take the insults and things that he was saying about me, such as me flirting with customers, um, me speaking about an incident that I should not be speaking with about, and that I should not use his name concerning that incident. Also, he attacked my status as a minister and leader. He also uh, just began to attack my financial situation and things of that nature, things that I didn't feel like were necessary or uh, needed to be public knowledge. Um, and so, as I left that establishment, I went to the other side of the mall, to the rear entrance of the mall, and was sitting with some customers or clients of mine. And he appeared again and began to hurl verbal, racial insults, um, and loudly, not just to me, but so that everyone that was in the establishment could hear it. The establishment is called um, Senkaya, or Corner Couch. And I confronted him, asked him, let's leave out of the establishment and talk. We talked in the parking lot loudly for a while. Um, Someone else came and tried to de-escalate the situation by getting in between us, and he just kept verbally attacking me with racial slurs, um, vulgar language, profanity, um, and I just continued to warn him that you know this is not something that needs to escalate because it could become um, confrontational, extremely confrontational, physically confrontational. After the
Mm.
person tried to de-escalate the situation, I asked Mr. Eziahu on several occasions, "Look, it's obvious that you would like to um, discuss what happened with that incident further, and you have some type of reason why you think I don't have a right to talk about this incident. And so I asked him to let's step behind the wall, lower our voices so that everyone is not listening to us, and talk about this situation. It seemed to me that he didn't want to completely step behind the wall because he wanted to make this a public display. And we continued like that for about 45 minutes. During that time, he he referred to my weight gain, that I've gained weight and it doesn't look good on me. He referred to the fact that I was wearing funny clothes or clothes that didn't look modern. Um, he continued to attack my choice of faith and my position in my faith. Um, he said that I don't sit with my own people. I don't acknowledge my own people. That I was a sellout to my own people. That I was always sitting with Caucasian people, and I liked them more than I liked my own people. He continued to talk about how um, he was trying to save me and Scott from being enslaved by Nigel and being taken advantage of by Nigel, and that we were having this business meeting with no capital investment in the company, and that we were being deceived by Nigel. Um, One of the things that bothers me about that whole incident is that Greg was the last one to be invited into the meeting. We were not looking to extort him of any money or to take anything away from his current catering business. Um, since we were all in the association, I had took it upon myself to invite him to become a part of these meetings, um, as an opportunity for us to unify. But it didn't go that way. Once I left, decided to leave the premises after about 45 minutes of continued disagreeing, because his main point was is that there was going to be some type of repercussion if I continued to discuss the events of that day after this particular moment in time. And I continued to let him know that I had the right to discuss that incident because I felt violated, I felt disrespected, I felt embarrassed, and I felt like um, my reputation was tarnished for something that I had nothing to do with his discrepancies with Nigel. Um, and so as I was leaving, I had got maybe across the street and began walking home. I called Nigel on the phone to let him know exactly what just happened because I was still in awe, stunned, and full of adrenaline. And Mr. Eziahu drives down the street. He stops and approached me and asked me mockingly, "Do I need a ride home?" And I told him, "No, I don't need a ride home." And he said, "Of course you don't, because you're always walking. You don't have a car." So then he drives down the street. He makes a left turn. He puts the car in reverse, goes back down to the next street, makes a left turn, puts the car in reverse, does a complete U turn, comes back down the street, and says, "Again, are you sure you don't need a ride? I'm pretty sure you need a ride. Don't you get tired of walking all the time?" And I told him, I said, "Why don't you go home?" And he said, "Yeah, why don't you tell your wife I said hello?" And then he drove away and left the area. And so these things make me feel very uncomfortable. He mentioned my wife and my family several times during this altercation, stating that um, you have a beautiful family and a lot to lose. And I felt threatened by that because you don't know my family. He's never met my offspring. He's never met my wife. He doesn't know who she is. He couldn't identify her out of a crowd of people. Out of a crowd of three people, he couldn't tell you who she was. But yet, he's telling me that I have a lot to lose. What does that mean? And so I didn't know if he was implying that if I don't stop talking about these events, um, whether or not he was going to do something to my family or attempt to do something to my family, or was he going to, in some way, attack my residency or things of that nature, or was he going to disfame my name, a defamation of my character, which he could have taken an attempt at that, but I wasn't understanding um, his argument, his perspective. I
Hmm.
just know that everything came in a heated discussion, and he was quite comfortable hurling out multiple insults. Um, and so, his continued approaches of me, or unsolicited, because I've told him multiple times since the Nando's incident that don't approach me. When you see me, just continue to go wherever you're going, and don't come near me. And I imagine that he didn't take that to heart, nor does he show any type of um, remorse or not recollection, but he's not able to look at the situation and see how he provoked that incident, how he escalated that incident, and how he was completely out of order. And he continues to speak about the incident as if I wasn't present. I wasn't present. He continued to tell me that he doesn't understand how I defended Nigel because of some perceived notion that Nigel wants to enslave him based on some movie that he saw and what they call people when they saw a movie. So this type of conduct leads me to believe that, um, in all sincerity, that Mr. Eziahu has some type of mental disorder. He's not mentally stable. Um, he interprets small matters and makes them bigger. He interprets and associates um, the behavior of individuals that he may have seen on television, or have heard in some type of story or report concerning others and individuals, and he brings that to reality once he finds out that a particular person uh, is of that lineage. For example, if he sees someone that is white and he hears that white people hurl racial slurs at black people, he may interpret that as, once he sees something in someone's character that he thinks is offensive to him, then he starts accusing them of these actions when they haven't committed those actions at all, um, directed at him, or directed those actions at him. And so he's a detriment not only to um, me and my family, but anybody that he deals with. There's been many multiple occasions where um, it's been reported that he has attacked other people's character, spoken derogatory towards other individuals, and he's getting out of hand. All in a sense, he's representing those of us who are coming here, and trying to establish ourselves and trying to uplift the community and be a part of what's going on here. He is a detriment, and he's out of control. So this is the end of my statement. I just wanted to
Thank you.
voice my perspective and let it be known how I feel.
Okay. Thank you very much. And we pray that the Messiah will just cover and keep you, as well as your mental health, not just your protection physically, for there's nothing that formed against you will prosper. The man seems very unstable. He is trying to defame your character. He has multiple times tried to greet you after you told him you don't want to speak to him. You are not the only person that has reported this same behavior of him coming up to them and them explaining to him they do not want to talk to him due to his instability and his behavior, black and white, in the Republic of Botswana. I want to conclude this documentation recording as time is running out. We will do another session and recording, not just for this purpose, but for other purposes as well. This here is just for documentation purpose. It is not for anything other than documentation as of June 26, 2025, of incidences have been happening from 2023 to now. This has been an ongoing situation that has been prayed over with patience and due diligence. This situation must stop. Help is needed for those that have mental wellness issues. I have a few questions for Mr. Yashar in regards to the harassment and the intimidation tactics that were solicited and acted out from the heart of Greg. Going back to your statement before we conclude this documentation, for the purpose of documentation, I want to ask you a few questions. Now, you stated that this all happened and started in 2023. Be it known that this started in late 2023, okay, at a meeting that he was not supposed to be at, but was invited to for the purpose of including unity, strength, and purpose of a business venture. In 2024, there were incidences where Mr. Yashar was actually approached several times in public with a simple greeting from Greg with the intentions we do not know, because Mr. Yashar kindly and politely asked him, "Don't talk to me," or briefly greeted him and walked away to avoid any behavior issues and emotional damage. Then in 2025, on May 21st, while minding his literal business, Yashar was approached again for possibly the seventh or eighth time in that year, or in the past culmination of 12 months, with hostility and the intent to defame his character in front of clients, customers, and store workers. The following, once again, from your statement and from the actual statement of people that work in the actual store and that were in the mall, because there are more statements recorded. There are audio statements, eyewitness statements, and there are video and there are written statements. These are just a few. He had spoke to you and explained that you are too old to be telling little boys about that situation. Briefly tell us what that situation was. Is the situation he's talking about the situation that happened back in 2023? He does not want you to speak upon a situation that happened in 2023 at Nando's restaurant against someone else. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. He also made a statement that says that he warned you. It says you said in your statement here on page 1 that he warned you to keep his name out of his mouth. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. That happened in 2025, where he walked up to you in the store once he found out that someone else knew about the 2023 situation at Nando's. He was upset, he was embarrassed, and he was very discontent with the fact that you had said something to someone else about the Nando situation that happened publicly in front of at least 7 or 8 employees and other patrons. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so he was upset that you had talked to someone and this conversation was brought up a whole year later. So when he happened to see you at the mall, he walked up to you and began to harass you and yell um, comments to you stating you're flirting with women, you're a fake preacher, and talking about you in a negative tone. Does that sound like unity and building up as opposed to trying to make this situation simply go away by just going away? Is that correct? Would that be a correct, fair assumption that I'm assuming that you would do? You would actually tell him you don't want to talk because his repeat offenses. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Later on, a whole separate incident at a whole separate part of the same mall, he came to you and said, I see you're always sitting with white people. I hope you all know this guy is a sellout to his own people. Once he directed those comments to other people sitting there, 40 plus patrons, 40 plus customers sitting in their seats, minding their business, he engaged the attention purposely and intentionally and maliciously of others sitting at a restaurant. He explained to those people, I hope you all know this guy is a sellout to his own people. He also said to your clients, which are black and white, here in the Republic of Botswana, you're always sitting with white people. For him to say you're always sitting with white people, always, one would have the assumption that Greg has seen you sitting somewhere before. Is that correct?
Correct.
How would he know that you sit with black or white people, which were AKA clients? How would he know that you were sitting with anyone before, anywhere, without seeing you, stalking you, harassing you? In conclusion, I want to confirm that when he said you're wearing those funny clothes, Mr. Yashar, please explain that yes, you have been successful and you've been acknowledged by the company that you're associated with that does nonprofit and has done work here within the continent and internationally, has also worked with NGO independently on its own to help small villages with farming and subsistence farming and sustainability, as well as their connection in Botswana with the company that you have actually been legally granted residency and permits for, and recognized for your corporate social responsibility for a woman owned company, internet company, one of the first ones here, of building websites and helping with tech products and ministry to others. This is just to name a few. And by the way, do you have a car?
Yes, I do.
Okay, not that it matters, but these things are assumptions. And the words that were spoken against you loudly in front of 40 plus people who are witnesses was to try to tear you down. That does not sound like unity, building up your people. It sounds like he's coming from a place of pain. There is a mental wellness concern of instability for Greg Asiago as of June 2025, going back to 2023. I will finalize with just a few more of those quotes to the Hebrew community. He did say you were always talking about being a Hebrew, talking that Hebrew stuff. Do you feel that that was an attack on your Hebrew faith, or that was something that he disagrees with? Can you briefly explain what you assume? Again, assumptions from his comments of bringing up that you always talk. And can you please provide the tone of voice that he used when he called you the N word, when he talked to the white people about being white, when he attacked your faith of Hebraic faith? Can you please use the tone of voice that he said, please, as we conclude?
Yes. So I believe to I believe that both of those labels are accurate concerning his referencing of my faith. One of the reasons why I believe this is because I have a historical background with Mr. Eziahu. Um, and keep in mind that anytime that I address or have addressed some of these instances with him concerning religious or faith or anything of that nature, his response is, after multiple profane statements and words, is that he's not against me. So it's a lot of contradicting statements, but we have had these discussions before about what each of us believes and how that goes and things of that nature. And it's I wouldn't say that he's entirely in disagreement with how I live my life or my perceptions or my beliefs, but he's not. He doesn't. He feels like there is another way to do things. That's not something that I should be entirely focused on. And so when he made those statements, he basically was summarizing um, anything that I had knew about him. Anything that we had discussed previously. It was in direct reference to how he was trying to help me, not only as um, not only in business, not only in establishing African Americans here in the community, along with the Botswana people, but as an artist too. And so he felt like he could have helped me as an artist, but I was always stuck on being a Hebrew and promote myself as a Hebrew or speaking about my Hebraic beliefs. And so it was both antagonistic, um, and it was a religious attack, and it was a faith-based attack. It was all of that above. Everything that he said during that evening, he said it in a derogatory manner. It was countless. He could not. He could not. He could not speak to me um, without cursing. If it wasn't the nigger word, it was the MF word. It was the FU word, um, continuously. Um, when I expressed to him that I was embarrassed because he asked me why did I keep speaking about the incident. Was I didn't continually talk about the incident. He just happened to run into someone that I had this conversation with, and I told him I was embarrassed, and he said, "Nobody knows who you are around here. They know me more than they know you." And my thought process is, regardless of who you think is more popular, because I'm not interested in being popular, regardless of who you think is more popular, when I expressed to you that I was embarrassed by your actions, not my actions, but your actions, he deflected. For him to to take note of who I was sitting with and insult them, my clients. After a span of 15 minutes of us not speaking, like when I walked away from that incident, it should have been over there. We had our moment, we had our disagreement. And for him to come and continue it and then attack me again, for him to mention my wife with the anger and animosity that he sounded like he had. As I sit back and think about it, I'm wondering with um, all the insults and all the attacks, because I told him that he was ugly, that his facial expressions was ugly, that his attitude was ugly. Everything that was coming out of his mouth, the spirit that he had on him was ugly. And he continued to tear me down. Which, I'm gonna be honest with you all, or anyone who's listening to this. Don't Please don't mistake this as um, me being offended in a sense that he hurt my feelings because of what he said. I'm offended because he mentioned my family and he continued to attack me when he was the one that was offensive. He also asked me continuously times, was I going to go home and tell my wife that I've been threatening him? So I believe that he was trying to, even after I had calmed down and wanted to talk to him in a sensible manner, I believe that he was trying to bait me into doing something that would jeopardize my residency or reputation or something of that matter. And the statements that he just continued making over and over again, I'm beginning to think maybe he's the one that is jealous that he could be me or something of that nature. Because you know I I didn't look at him and dissect him and try to point out everything about him that I thought, and I still refuse to do that because there are a lot of things that I had gotten to know him about him, that I could publicize, but that's just not my position. My position, and my goal is to have him not be an influence in people's lives until he gets some type of help mentally, spiritually. I believe that he has some sort of chemical imbalance, but he was
Mm.
very angry.
We only have 3 more minutes left, and I would like to ask you one final question. When you talked about your safety and your peace, it's not that you are in fear that he will hurt you, physically harm you, but that things may continue to grow out of control after a year and a half of this harassment on and off, just out in public. He is not, for the record, stalking you in the sense of knowing where you're at, following you, driving up on you, and things of that nature. But he is seeing you in public, continuing to try to conversate and communicate with you after you have explained to him that you want to cease and desist communication with him. And this final declaration is the last attempt to document what's been going on in case something does happen to you, your family, or anyone else that may be going through similar situations with his instability. Okay. But my question here for you is, when he is telling you to tell your wife you said hello, and you said that he does not know your wife says she doesn't know him, that you have never formally introduced them to each other. They have never had any conversations, meetings, or phone calls. When he says to you, you have a beautiful family and to lose, a lot to lose, what is referring to? We can't address that full portion within this documentation, but it needs to be documented that this would then stir up a concern from Mr. Yashar regarding Greg. Other people that have encountered the same behavior from him, a man that is now going to lead societies, associations, cooperatives with the government. Not a problem. Wish you well. Pray for the best. But as a Hebrew or someone of faith that doesn't align with his faith, what may he do or say behind your back is a very important concern. We'll have to conclude here and start another recording, possibly a part two that's more informal, for Mr. Yashar and anyone else in the future to comment. At this time, thank you so much for your time and patience and statements. Thank you very much for those that have submitted statements, not just on behalf of Yashar, but for yourself. And we pray in the Most High Yah, Hashem Yahusha Mashiach, that all things will come together in agreement for his people that are making repatriation, exodus, and looking to be obedient to his word. Shalom.